And I'm really excited about all of these updates. They're pretty crazy. So Bakersfield, California is a temple that we don't talk about too often, but it's kind of in the process, moving along like the other temples. We don't get a lot of information out of Bakersfield behind the scenes like some of the other temples where people contact us, mostly faithful members letting us know what's going on. But in Bakersfield, articles come out and we will pick up on those. So in this case, there's an article that says the environmental review is to begin on the Bakersfield LDS temple. And that tells us that it's moving right along. There is a resident group, of course, that is expressing concern. It's organized. As I understand it, they have a PR person and an attorney. But despite all of that, looks like the church is just plowing on ahead with its environmental review. And that will tell us, I'm sure I'm going to predict that everything's just fine. No problems with building that temple. So I thought the article was a little bit interesting. I feel like it's deja vu as I kind of go through it. I mean, tell me if you've heard any of these statements before. So it basically is starting out by saying that the plans for the Bakersfield temple on Stockdale Highway are moving forward. These plans were announced back in 2023. And the steeple is 124 feet. It's going to be one of those kind of little modular pop-up looking temples. Bakersfield has done a really good job of putting out renderings of how this temple will impact their neighborhood. You can see there's one of the homes in Bakersfield. They tend to be one story. And what is that coming up right behind it? There it is. That is the impact visually of this 124-foot steeple on just a simple residential area.
It's like the Godzilla temple.
It's like the Godzilla temple. No, they did a really good job of putting out these renderings because it really shows, it's one thing to say this will impact our neighborhood, but to show it like this, there's no way that people can't understand what they're talking about. So the article goes on to say last year, residents of Brighton Park, it's a 55 and over gated community right there adjacent to the site. They organized an ad hoc committee to advocate for changes in the temple design. Again, I feel like we should either take a drink or raise our hand when we hear something that we've heard in some other town as they talk about a temple. On Tuesday, the committee released a statement saying it was disappointed to see plans for the 124-foot steeple were unchanged as the project's environmental review is set to move forward. They said, we don't object to the temple being there at all. Burnett told the Californian, we are single level, and that's what they're proposing is something that is incredibly out of the realm of what was proposed there from the standpoint of the property. And they're just talking about visually how it looks here. Let's go to the next one here. Church representatives said the steeple, raise your hand again if you've heard this before, is an important feature of the temple and will be illuminated in such a way as to not pollute the local environment. It's an important part of the temple, said Merrill Dibble, stake president of the LDS Church of Bakersfield. The steeple helps point us toward heaven and toward God. It's a critical piece and enhances the building. Okay, Dibble, I don't want to quibble with this statement, but I must point out the picture that I've attached here to his statement, and that is the Brussels, Belgium temple. Can you see what's on top of that, RFM? What is that?
That looks like a hypodermic needle.
Yeah, it is a tiny, itsy bitsy little steeple that they just kind of put up there. So as far as Dibble's comments on the integral part of the temple, pointing your eyes toward heaven, didn't get the memo with this Brussels steeple. We've been having a lot of fun with the Brussels building here, and we're going to talk about that in a minute.
Rebecca, can I mention about the steeple?
Yes.
In Mormonism, because heaven and God both have distinct locations, the odds are that at any given time, a steeple is not going to be pointing toward God or heaven.
That's an interesting observation.
Yeah, almost 100%.
Yeah.
No, that's a really interesting observation. You're absolutely right. And if you can see here, again, like I said, really good renderings. Look at these, showing what it would look like as you're driving toward it. Again, the neighborhood there. The committee members say they've met with church representatives several times, and their main concern is height and bright. Bakersfield is the one who coined that, height and bright. I think that's great, of the steeple, and that remains unchanged. Our problem is the LDS is saying one thing to us, but their actions betray those statements. Surprising.
They must be misunderstood.
I'm sure that it was a misunderstanding. Yes. They have done not one single thing to address our expressed concerns, the resident committee is saying. Committee members have stressed their opposition is specifically to the proposed height of the steeple, not to the temple and not to the LDS church, right? We've heard this statement over and over in all the towns that we follow. It's very important to understand that they are welcome, but have some consideration for existing codes and our concerns, Burnett said. Inviting us to an open house does not equate to saying we hear you and we can come to some kind of compromise. So if you guys have any comments on that, to me, it's deja vu all over again in Bakersfield.
They're welcome at this point. Pretty soon they won't be.
I'll only say that, again, everybody, I've said this before on the past shows, that everybody's catching up now. That they can't get away with these things as easily. So if their plan is to do this across the country going forward with whatever temples they decide to announce and build, they're just going to piss off every town. They're going to make everybody hate them. People already think Mormons are weird. They think the church is extreme, sort of on the culty side. And now you're just going to make everybody angry, which is probably the worst thing you want to do.
I want to mention something here because I think it's important. Bill said that these cities or the church is not going to be able to get away with this like they used to be able to. And that's important. That's significant. And that never would have happened except for you, Rebecca, Bibliotheca.
Yep.
My goodness.
You were the reason. You. And I just wanted to point that out because this is a huge change that the church now has to engage with. They're going to still try and steamroll everybody, but people are getting wise, and if they want to, they can know what to do to not fall for the tricks and the traps that the church sets for them. And that's all because of you, Rebecca.
You can bring profit to the negotiating table. That's how strong the world has gotten.
Yeah, I think it is. And I do know that towns are communicating with each other. Federal Way, they've announced this McKinney-sized temple, the previous one, 174, 5 feet, in an area where the zoning is 60 feet again. And that town is communicating with Fairview, so I feel like everybody's going to start back channeling and everybody is going to be up to speed very quickly, And again, the idea is let's have a temple. Everybody's excited about it, but let's follow the zoning. Let's follow the codes.